Ethereum, Bitcoin, and everything else pretty much confirming a breakout towards the upside after a year of bear market pain. If you've just arrived into crypto, congratulations. What a time to arrive rather than everyone else who arrived at the top, bought in, and then has been licking their wounds ever since. But don't worry, guys, if you've been dollar cost averaging in over time, then potentially you now have the ability to get yourself back to where you were and then beyond because of the network effect of crypto. Before we dive into the charts, please smash that thumbs up button. It helps me out more than you know, guys, and let's get into it. So what we have had for crypto is very interesting. The green line, guys, is basically the channel, the top of the channel for the bear market that we've been sat in since November last year. And then on a 4-hour chart, this was the breakout that we initially had back on the 26th of October, pushing out, breaking back into this area, and now you can see pushing into this area. Now, what I talked about on this channel over the last few days is what these kind of zones are. And if you've been missing out on that, these zones are essential. What I've been telling you guys is to avoid buying these big green candles. Yes, you might say that after these green candles, we've seen a continuation, and that is right. But if you buy these big green candles, then ultimately you tend to see more pain than not. What we need to identify is when we see these big green moves like this, is where they came from. Because if we know where they came from, then we can identify where the price will go back to before we can buy in again. So what we're looking at on this particular chart, right? So when we had this push here, we can see a bit of consolidation and then another aggressive push. What then raised everyone's eyebrows was this return to this zone. Now, this doesn't mean that we dive in and buy at this area. What we can draw is a green buy box here, because I guarantee you once we see these aggressive moves, and particularly if they're very quick in and outs, then we know that this particular zone is significant, and more than likely we will return to a zone like this to be able for big money to buy up at the price they want to pay. They don't want to pay $1,650, they want to pay this much, $1,500. And how do I know that? Well, because if you're buying big billion-dollar orders, then you don't want to buy a few $100s over, because it makes a massive, massive difference. So they'll bring the price back in. They allocate a portion of money every day to drop prices into zones that they can then go and buy out of. Trading firms allocate portions of money each day in order to dump prices back into zones that they can use to buy out of again. If you think that's immoral, well, you're probably right. So what's really happening, guys? We can see the push down into this zone. Everyone starts selling, thinking it's going to continue further, and then lo and behold, we push out of it. Also, what's significant is this down trend or downward sloping trend here. We are now running into an interesting area of resistance, which if we drop down our Fibonacci tool, we can see is the 0.5. Don't be surprised if from the 0.5 we take a little drop down towards around $1,550, which is only a $30 downside move, before doing something very similar that we saw on the bigger scale and moving on. Now, in terms of a price target for this particular pattern, you're looking at the 1.618, which comes in here at $1,760. $1,760, guys, significant for us. Why is it significant? Well, if we jump across, you can see what happened last time we were in this zone. We got into it, sell off, eventually came and played around with it a bit, found resistance here, found resistance here. Now we will likely see more resistance in that area. So remember, if we're seeing big green candles pushing into this zone, then eventually we're going to see some form of a cool off. And what we want to do is again prepare for our cool off with our green box and wait for that second push, and then we can enter on that second one there. So just remind me why we don't buy big green candles. If you said because we get big red ones after, congratulations, you are correct. So what we're seeing, guys, is very, very cool indeed. So what we're going to likely see on the way back up, and I still don't really think we've had a huge amount of volume arriving into the market in order to push this price that much right now. So I still think we're going to see a bit of sideways consolidation, and then eventually we will see a bigger push. We're starting to see the altcoins really picking up in value right now, which is kind of interesting because personally, I don't want to be diving into the smaller altcoins right now, although they have good discounts on them. And they are moving like 10% some days, chances of them declining pretty aggressively if you have any sort of sell-off in Bitcoin will be significantly bigger. But what makes Ethereum exciting is it's an altcoin. It has a smaller market cap than Bitcoin, but still has potential for huge upside. Everything in crypto has potential for huge upside right now against the downside risk. Obviously not financial advice. Go away and do your own research. If you buy now and I'm wrong, then you've only got yourself to blame, because you should be doing your own research, guys. Trading is not 100% game. It's a probability game. So you've got to be able to rely on your own decisions. Let's see then. So in terms of a way back up, what we can really pay attention to is basically every time that we found a zone like this, okay? Why these zones are significant, why I'm drawing them on my chart, guys, is because every time we interact with these zones before, whether that be on the way up, whether that be on the way down, we've had a change in direction. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't break through them, and it tends to be a very aggressive push, but once you arrive at each of these markers, you do see a bit of sideways play before either breaking out. Sometimes you'll come up to one, back down to another, and then on, which is why I come back to my point of not buying into the hype. If you look at on the way up before, when you had aggressive pushes like this, you have fantastic buying opportunities every time you get these pullbacks. Okay, so you're getting these pullbacks. This is a great one because it comes back and it confirms once. Remember, we're not buying on the first confirmation, we're buying on the second confirmation, which comes here. Again, we have a push, come back, and here again we get one confirmation happening here and a second confirmation here. This eradicates any need for panic. Obviously, guys, we know what happened around this time, and you do get kind of like a spiral into out of control moments like this, but the key is not to be greedy. And yes, this is a daily time frame. If you're looking for those pullbacks, especially on days like this, they still occur just on smaller time frames, like 4 hours, 1 hour, 15 minutes. And when we move into more aggressive moves in the market, I will be bringing you more than one potentially daily update for those markets, because I'll show you when those pullbacks are happening and when we're getting confirmation in the pullback zones and when you can pull the trigger on potentially buying into markets. So if you want to know about when to get in on those pullback zones, then make sure you're subscribed, guys. Hit that notification bell so that you know as and when the markets are ready to pump once more. So what we're looking at in terms of a breakout target still remains at the top of this pattern, back at $800 from current prices. You're looking at a big push, 214%. So what's that like? If you're putting $100, you're going to get $214 back, or $1,000. You can do the maths, guys. But Fibonacci retracement rules, we can look down here, swing high, swing low, and then we got our 1.618 up here, $7,244. And what I think is a very significant, I get that I'm making a mess of this chart right now, but I'm just excited. We can see a trend line from here, and we can draw it across the top of this. And drawing our trend line along the top of here, then we can see where the 1.68 interacts with this line here. So you potentially are looking June next summer. Now, obviously, guys, who knows whether or not we're going to be able to get to this price by June next summer. There's no crystal ball method when it comes to this, but there's definitely cycles in which crypto is following. The mass load of people together does seem to create an effect that shows up over and over again. Diving into Bitcoin on the 4 hour, similarly exciting things happening. And I've been raging on about for days, weeks even, about interest rates, how they're affecting it, the US dollar, how that's affecting crypto, and how these volatile assets are not so popular when the US dollar's been flying. US dollar starting to look like it's going to crumble and cool off, but we won't get a massive pump in crypto until it does take a big push down towards the downside. Now, Bitcoin is showing something very similar to Ethereum. As I mentioned, you can see again how nicely these boxes work, right? We got a big aggressive push. We have this kind of indecision candle in the middle, push, indecision. We come back, first confirmation. So, you know, if you're looking and you bought into this second confirmation at this level down here, then what are you looking at? You know, 2.6% right now. If you're using leverage, say a 10x, that's like 20%. You get the picture, guys. Obviously, don't use leverage if you're unexperienced in trading, because it's a great way to lose lots of money. And I will continue to tell you more about how to trade and also with leverage later on into the bull market. Coming across to the Ethereum Bitcoin chart. Now this is an interesting chart because when Ethereum is moving heavily, aggressively on this chart, it's because Bitcoin's also moving up. Bitcoin moves up, everything else follows, but Ethereum's got a smaller market cap. What we can see has been playing out here is a push like this. Now, I do want to point out the fact that we run into a resistance level here and have yet to break out of this. If we are breaking out, then we're going to be looking higher on this and continuing to pump. But notice how aggressively this chart pumps compared with Ethereum against the US dollar. So what this probably means is that Ethereum is running into a bit of resistance along with Bitcoin. So do expect a little bit of a bounce towards the downside, like I mentioned, around $50 for the Ethereum price to around $15.50 offhand, and then something like this shaping up for the Ethereum Bitcoin chart, one of the most bullish looking charts about right now. Jumping out to a daily, what this really means, we've got an ascending triangle, a bit of a messy one, but you will see that we'll probably be pushing up to this from current prices. What we're looking for then is a push along something like this, and that is when we're really going to be taking off in crypto. Ethereum price will be surging higher. Now we've still got big targets ahead of us. It's $2,000. Don't be surprised if we see big pushes into $2,000. Everyone crying for fake outs, pushes towards the downside. The markets are sketchy and everyone wants financial investment from the big firms, the big banks and everything like that. But I tell you what they bring, and if you go and look at the Forex chart, you'll understand they bring a lot of market manipulation, they bring a lot of pain, and crypto won't necessarily be reacting in the way that it has done in the past because it's a way more volatile market, because the market caps are so much smaller crypto than world Forex markets. I know everyone's telling me that crypto is going to take over in like a year or 2 years, but I really don't see that necessarily happening given the size of the markets and how much money you need to shift in order for that to happen. But longer story, I do believe one day crypto is going to be king. So guys, if you enjoyed that and you didn't do it earlier, then smash the thumbs up button. Thank you for doing that. If you're new to the channel, you want to learn more about Ethereum, Bitcoin, Doge, and Solana, other cryptos like that, smash the subscribe button. Get in my Telegram group, link down below in the description, and I'll see you very soon in the next one. Bye-bye.